Welcome, everyone. I'm Lindsay with Flight Cleveland, and I'm here today with a special group of friends to talk about wine. So we have Victor, our Flight Club manager. We have Eastman Presser from Skurnik Wines, and we have Giovanna Borreri from Alturis Winery joining us today to talk about all things Northern Italy, but also specifically the Pinot Nero that all of you will find in your Flight Club winter release. So, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. We're so excited. Giovanna, so we are here. It's 9:30 in the morning here in Cleveland. It's, I believe, 3:30 in the afternoon where you are. Where are you joining us from?
My name is Giovanna, and I'm very nice to meet all of you. Of course, it's a big pleasure for us because it's also a first introduction of our wines on the US market, and in particular, of course, in your country, in Cleveland. So I'm very excited to represent Alturis. I'm in charge of export for Alturis Winery. Alturis is a small family business. We are situated in Friuli. Friuli is a small region extremely northeast of Italy. We are bordering with Austria north and Slovenia east. So it's a small region, but really highly regarded, in particular for high quality white wines, because this area, of course, we produce around 70% of whites, but also the reds are really very interesting. Some, in particular, of course, local grapes, but also some international grapes, very elegant, very fruity, like the Pinot Nero that you will receive. And Friuli is a small region. They're really very close to Venice too. So most of the time people need to know that we are very close to Venice because Friuli is so small. Most of the people usually know Tuscany or Sicily or Piemonte, but Friuli is really unknown. But yeah, beautiful, absolutely unique. In particular, of course, for the position where we are. So north, we have the mountains, the Julian Alps and the Prealps. And south, we have the sea, the Adriatic Sea. So this position is really unique, in particular, of course, for high quality wines, for high quality grapes. Here we have different climate, so different temperature between night and day. That is very good for the aroma, of course, for the wines, but also the position of the vineyards that are mostly situated on hills. It is very important for high quality wines.
Amazing. So, how did you get involved with the wine industry, Giovanna?
So I started more than 25 years ago. I'm also sommelier. So I had the degree. We have three levels of sommelier courses in Italy. And then I used to work also for like an association for wine producers here in Colli Orientali in this appellation where we are. And then I started with Marco and Massimo Zorzettig. They are the third generation in the wine business. So it was very nice to be part of a family. Of course, also because here in this area you have most of the winery that are small family business and with a long tradition in cultivating our own grapes. So it's really make a very nice experience to be absolutely in a family business where people do everything. So of course, when you are in a family, there are two brothers the same age of me. And so also was very exciting because at that time they would like to focus, of course, on high quality wines. So also reducing the yield per hectare in order to focus on high quality grapes. And it was also a very important project that we started in order, of course, to focus on international and indigenous grapes that are also very important for this area because, as you know, in Italy is so wide, a lot of region, but in every region you really have something very special from the area. And so the project was very exciting. At the beginning, we had, of course, the whites and the reds, and also some dessert wines that we produce. And then after a couple of years, also we started with the agriturismo, where we have, yes, a small restaurant with local food and our wines, of course. You are in the middle of the vineyard, so it's beautiful atmosphere, beautiful position. And also, just 2 years ago, we started also with a glamping, this new project, very fascinating, also in the middle of the vineyard, where you have a unique place to enjoy the wines, but also to stay in the middle of the vineyards and to relax.
So you could come stay in the glamping site and go have dinner in the vineyard also, get a
Yeah,
reservation. I
exactly.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
definitely coming your way. So you mentioned that the brothers are the first generation of the winery. So when did the winery actually come together? When did it start?
So it started the wine business. It started with the grandfather in 1960. But at that time, as most of the family here in this region, they used to work all together. So big family, Zorzetti family, with Livio, the father of Marco and Massimo, that had two other brothers, and they work all together. Then they decided, of course, Livio decided to got married with Gabriella, with the mama, and to start their own business. And so it was important because, of course, just after some years, the father died. And so the two brothers, Marco and Massimo, were very young at that time. One was just 14, the other six. And so as soon as they left school, they got involved in the business. But at the beginning, it was thanks to Mama, to Gabriella, that with great passion and a lot of sacrifice decided to continue the family business. She also, of course, the other uncles helped her at the beginning, but she was really very strong and with a lot of sacrifice. But of course, she decided to go ahead. And then, as soon as they left the school, they got involved in the business, in the vineyards, in the cellar. At that time, of course, it was mostly wine that was not bottled, but just sell for a local market, for friends, for the family. And so just some years later, we decided also to put the wine in bottles and the market increased. So now we can say that Alturis is very well known, in particular for domestic market, because we work mostly with restaurants and bars and private customers, of course. And also our wines are exported mostly in Europe.
And you said that this was the first time that your wines have been in the Cleveland market here.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting that we get to be some of the first to experience them. And so I would imagine it sounds like the winery has had a lot of innovation and a lot of change over the years. And looking at the videos that you had sent over and that are on your website, it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And there seems to be a very strong a very strong presence of sustainability. And I saw tons of solar panels on all the buildings and the vineyards themselves look immaculate. So maybe tell us a little bit about that commitment to sustainability and what's happening in the vineyards.
Yeah, so the relationship between, of course, the man and the land is very important, and so we work directly, personally, our vineyards. It is important to say that Alturis is azienda agricola. It means that it's a winery that cultivate our own grapes. So we do not buy grapes from other producers in order, of course, to check the quality of our grapes. And so we can say that most of the operation are by hand. That is very important. So also we work in every vineyard in a different way. Of course, the first operation we use the tractor, the machine, but then depending on the variety, depending on the vineyard, we work with all the operation, so also the stemming, the pruning, the harvest, always by hand. That is very important to respect the environment, but also, of course, to respect every vineyard and every different grape variety. But of course, as mentioned before, it's mostly whites, so Pinot Grigio and Sauvignon are the most important international grapes that we cultivate in Friuli. And in particular, of course, because here you have this kind of microclimate with the breezes coming from north and the mild influence of the sea that gives a lot of minerality to the white wine. So you get really very intensive aromatic white wines with, I show you, I have also a piece of our soil that is called Ponca. You see, it's very friable, and this kind of soil gives a lot of minerality, in particular to the whites that are so distinctive, so high quality. So Friuli and Alto Adige, Südtirol are the most important region all over Italy, in particular for whites. And then, of course, we have some local grapes like Friulano and Ribolla Gialla that are very diffuse. And then, of course, the reds. Our reds are not too much well structured because, of course, of the mild climates. And so are easy drinking, very fruity, very fresh, very vinous. So wines that you can drink every day and very easy to match also with the food. But of course, the operation in the vineyards by hand, it's very important in order to guarantee the highest quality.
Um, could I wanted to ask a question, something that we at Skurnik really love about Alturis are that you grow some of these international varieties for us to have a really high quality producer in Italy making Chardonnay, making Pinot Nero or what people might know as Pinot Noir and Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc is very interesting for us. Was it always a decision to grow those international varieties? Were they brought in eventually? Could you talk a little bit about the difference between international varieties and native varieties, maybe?
Yeah, so tradition in Friuli, you will be a little bit surprised because in our region, even if it is very small in terms of quantity, we just produce 3% of Italian DOC wine. But it's really a lot of wines, a lot of variety. We can cultivate more than 22 different grapes in our law of production. So it means a lot of wines. We can say that this area, of course, Pinot Grigio and Sauvignon and a little bit of Chardonnay, we have long tradition in cultivating these grapes already from 18 and mostly imported from France. And we call it Pinot Grigio, but it's Pinot Gris, Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, but for us it's Sauvignon. It's very similar, just it could change a little bit the name. But of course, we mostly focus also on local grapes that are very important because really represent our story. Friuli is, you will see on the map, it's very influenced by Slovenian, by Austria, and by Venice too. And you can get this influence everywhere in the along the street if you just see the monuments, but also in the food, in the wines, everywhere. And so, of course, international grape variety are very important for the market. Of course, in particular, of course, if you export, in most of the market, they usually ask for Pinot Grigio and Sauvignon as white wines, a little less of Chardonnay from this area. But anyway, they are vinified in stainless steel. Also because our philosophy is to express the characteristic of a grape variety. It's very important because if you have all these wines, all these grapes that you can cultivate, it's very important for us that every wine should really express the characteristic of the grape variety. So Pinot Grigio is more fruity, Sauvignon you get more aromatic and green sensation from a cooler climate, so it's very intensive. But Friulano is very interesting because of this minerality that really express the territory and the soil from this area. Ribolla Gialla is also local grape, very interesting because it's mostly grow on the hills and gives more elegance. It's a very easy drinking wine, very ideal aperitif, very refreshing, especially during summertime. But also some other international grapes like Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon or Pinot Nero, that for us is Pinot Nero, but is Pinot Noir. We have long tradition to cultivate them, and they really have found in Friuli the right soil and the right climate to express this high quality.
Fabulous. You mentioned food in a few of your comments. We always like to find out what you think would be a great food pairing for specifically the Pinot Nero, because our members will all be sipping on that very soon. So what would you recommend for a food pairing with the Pinot Nero by Alturis?
Oh, yeah, so Pinot Nero, I think it's very interesting wine, and I love to enjoy during all the meal because it's very easy to pair with food. It's very versatile wine, and it's light, fresh, fruity. You can enjoy at first as aperitif with some salami. I love also with bread or with polenta. Also, we often have fresh cheese or medium-aged cheese like an aperitivo. Or during the meal, you can enjoy with pasta, with ragu, or with lasagne, of course. But it's also a great accompaniment for some white meat, also with some fish sometimes because it's also some light spicy notes, but it's nice accompaniment also with some seafood. And of course, during summertime, I love to chill a little bit and of course to enjoy as aperitif or during the meal anyway, when it is very warm outside, it's very refreshing.
I think people sometimes are surprised when they hear people say putting a little chill on a red wine. But I think Pinot Nero, Pinot Noir is one of those wines that can really benefit from that, depending on the weather and your preference of how you like to drink your wines. And we're not talking icebox cold. We're talking just, pop it in the fridge for 10, 15 minutes and let it get a little chill on it, and it's perfect. I think people are also surprised to hear about red wine and seafood. I think a lot of people have been taught somewhere along the road that that's not okay. But in fact, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of things that Pinot Nero, specifically yours, it's so racy and high acidity and so clean on the palate. I think there's so many things that could pair well with. Perfect. Any questions from Eastman or Victor?
I was gonna say, do we maybe want to talk about Verduzzo a little bit? Is
Oh,
that something
yes.
that we want to touch on? Maybe Lindsay, you can talk about the Verduzzo and why we're interested in it and that whole thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
great topic. So we are obviously sharing the Pinot Nero with our members here in our winter release in January. And shortly thereafter, we're going to be bringing your Verduzzo onto our wine list. And we would love for you to tell us a little bit about the history, because this is a very unique wine and very specific to your region. So give us
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
history.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Verduzzo, it's name of the grape and also name of the wine. It is a local grape variety, so the full name is Verduzzo Friulano. Friulano, it's also, I'm also Friulana. So it's nice because it's a name that identify anyway people who lives here in Friuli. And Verduzzo really represent our flagship as a sweet wine because at the end of the meal, we usually enjoy a glass of sweet wine also especially with at the end of the meal just with some biscuits some cantucci or just with also tiramisu, a classic dessert, or it could be also in contrast with some blue cheese.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's it could be, yeah, very interesting pairing. And Verduzzo it's so interesting white grape variety that is very diffuse all over the region, long tradition in cultivating this grape, and it is a late harvest. So it means that we leave the grapes on the vine, we cut the leaves in order to get more sun and more sugar concentration. And then we make the harvest, of course, by hand in small cases, and we put in the cellar with light pressing and fermentation in contact with the skins. So it gives also more color, but also some light tannin, because even if it is a white grape variety, it also contains tannin, like the red grapes. And so it is so unique. Fermentation continue in tanks at controlled temperature, so you can at the end have a fresh sweet wine. It's not too much well structured, not too much sweet, also with a good freshness. It's very interesting, I think, also because you have some, of course, sweet sensations, so more honey, nuts, and dry figs sensation, but also this freshness. So it's not too much sweetness, but very nice wine also to pair at the end of the meal. There is the interesting, we have tried during the last dinners also a nice pairing as aperitif with oyster that is
Ooh.
really interesting, really amazing for a sweet wine.
So
Oh.
wow, Verduzzo and oysters.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
tremendous.
Right.
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
We will be trying that.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Yeah, we're big fans of oysters.
I'm an oyster guy.
I
Yeah.
feel like those little gems that we've gotten in some of these conversations with people from wineries. There's always one very surprising food pairing that we're turned on to, and that can be really exciting. So Verduzzo and oysters, that is tremendous.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But then, every time I say that you have to think about your wine pairing because it's very personal. Sometimes people prefer to match sweet with sweet, sometimes to match sweet with, in contrast, with salty. So it's your own palate, it's your own taste. But this was, for me, it was very interesting, and I think it's a really great pairing. Could be a nice different idea also to try.
It sounds wonderful. We're definitely going to be trying that. You've piqued my interest. So if we all are going to hop on a plane to come visit Alturis, uh, how do we find you guys? Where are we going? We're going to, you said Venice is pretty close. We're going to hop on a plane to Venice. We're going to head north and a little east and end up because you guys are nearly right on the border
Yeah,
of
so
Slovenia, correct?
from yeah, exactly. So from Venice, it's about 1 hour and 30 minutes by car. The
Great.
best is to arrive in Venice airport, of course, that is international airport, and then to rent a car. then you will be free, of course, to come and to visit the countryside and to reach us. You can stay, of course, a couple of nights in order to have enough time to visit all the region. And then you can come back and visit Venice or Verona, that is very close. We are very close to the border with Slovenia, so just 5 kilometers far, so it's 5 minutes drive, but very close also to Austria. It's about 1 hour drive and very close to Croatia. So there are also some people that spend holiday in Croatia visiting, of course, seaside. And then when they come back, we are very close to Ljubljana. So it's a nice area. Just the best is then to rent the car to be free to visit the countryside. And from here, of course, you have San Daniele, that is our local raw ham that is similar to Parma. Probably you can find also in US in some gastronomy store that is really very good. We have also some local cheese that are produced here and great local food. Very good restaurant, but also small agriturismo, very family owned with the family cuisine.
And of course, your beautiful wines that we're very excited to have here. Eastman, can you just give us a quick rundown of what is available in Cleveland from the Alturis lineup?
Yeah, so we currently work with the whites that we have talked about some of them. So there's the Chardonnay, the Sauvignon or Sauvignon Blanc, the Friulano, the Ribolla Gialla, and the Pinot Grigio. And then there are the three reds that we work with currently, which is the Refosco. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Refosco, but the Refosco is gorgeous. There's the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Pinot Nero, and then there's the one sweet wine, the Verduzzo. So those are the what is that, nine? The nine wines that we currently work with from Alturis.
So lots to play with here. So members, as you're watching this, feel free to reach out to Victor and I, and we can get these wines in your hands. Some of them are already in our shop. Some of them are going to be on our wine list soon. So lots to try, lots to get involved with, and definitely a very unique and special region. And we're just very excited to be highlighting everything that you guys do. And I think Eastman and Victor and I are going to go fly to Venice and come see you soon because there's definitely some of the most beautiful photos that you guys have shared on your website about the experience you can have at Alturas. So we're very excited. We're excited to know you guys. We're excited to be sharing your wine with our customers. And we're just thrilled to be a part of the Alturas winery. Thank you so much for being with us here today. And Eastman, Victor, thank you for your time. Giovanna, thank you so much for sharing your great knowledge of the region and these wines. We're so excited to hear from you. And members, enjoy the Pinot Nero and reach out to us if you have any questions. And we hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers.
Cheers.
So thank you so